Um, I'll start after I see my doctor Monday. Have him do the referral to Active Solutions. Because Come on, Prince.
Let's call the meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular council meeting for October 18th, 2017. After the Pledge of Allegiance, the first item up is approval of the agenda. Council, you have any changes or anything you want to make to the agenda? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Go ahead. I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Next item is the consent agenda. And tonight we have the town council meeting minutes for October 4th, 2017. The joint town council planning and zoning workshop meeting for minutes for October 4th. Planning and zoning commission meeting minutes for September 25th. Planning and zoning report for the month of September. Police report for the month of September. And animal control report for the month of September. Yeah, that's in there. Questions or comments? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion on that.
Mr. Mayor, I have one thing on the workshop, joint planning and zoning. I asked a question in there if we're going to be looking at all implemented ordinances in this manner, and I would just like that to be on the record that that I did ask that question.
You want to redo it?
I would like to just see that inserted in there with that change.
Mayor, Council, if I may, with the way that we're doing the consent agenda, just proper form would be to pull an item off for discussion and then move forward, but I know we're all kind of new to this one, so.
You want to pull that item?
Yes, please.
Did we get a motion yet on it?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion, we approve tonight's consent agenda, pulling out the joint town council and planning and zoning workshop meeting minutes for October 4th, 2017.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's consent agenda with the exception of removing item B, joint town council planning and zoning workshop meeting minutes for October 4th, 2017, to add verbiage to it. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Staff, whoever works on these, get together with Councilor Councilor Abraham, and see what else she wants to put in there so we can bring it back to the next meeting. That's that. Okay, the next item is discussion items, public comment on general matters. You got the sheet there, Joe? Thanks much. The first person up is Susan Simons.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I see you're going to discuss Brews on Bachelor, so I will just set that aside for now. But I was wondering if having a a beer. First of all, let me say, I talked to some of the breweries that were there, and they had a fabulous time and really enjoyed it. So, yeah, it was a good event. But having a liquor event, does that bode good for changing our liquor sales on Sunday law?
Don't know. In other words, that's sort of a one-time thing.
But it's the first time in this town, and that's a good sign. And I would like to encourage the council to really consider changing our Sunday liquor sale laws, because it's losing a lot of gross receipts to other parts. They just drive down the road
Yep.
and buy.
52 days a year.
Yeah, so that's my statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. Next person up is Tappan Mahoney.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm actually here for a couple items. One, you know what the first one's about, and that's the wastewater service on 66. I received a letter from Ms. Salazar I'd like to address tonight. I do want to make note publicly, I disagree with the contents of that letter. We'll be leaving you a response in writing that each of you will get to that letter. Will be within the 15 days requested. Additionally, want to make note, since opportunity was not provided at the last meeting regarding the presentation on the technical memorandum, a couple of comments I'd like to bring out before the public. And the question to the town is, who from NMED, as stated at the meeting, requested the technical memo to be prepared?
At our meeting, who requested it?
Last meeting, it was stated that NMED requested the technical memo. I'm asking who at NMED requested.
I believe that was Judy Kale.
And when about was that, do you know?
Requested and recommended probably is the difference. She recommended that we do.
Yeah. I think back in
Technical
the
analysis
spring or
memorandum.
something. Somewhere back in there.
Okay, so shortly after the PER is the point I'm getting at, and the fact that the contents of the technical memo and the contents of the PER are completely two separate issues. You guys are getting a technical memorandum, prepared for the existing wastewater plant, which is failed to mention a couple of very important things. One, the capacity of the plant as designed does not address the area of service that you are currently designing your collection system for. The current plant does have 2 basins, one of which is not equipped. However, both basins are being utilized and have been for quite some time. It's not as simple as was presented at the meeting last month. And that the report or the memo, the presentation failed to address hardness. The only part that I gathered from that presentation was that you guys were going to continue to purchase membranes to address hardness. And that the enforcement of the ordinance, as it was presented, if that's the case, would require everybody connected to the system pre-treat their waste to a certain limit before it enters the town system. Those very key important items were not mentioned. So everybody that does not meet the criteria of the current wastewater plant has to put in their own wastewater treatment before it goes into your system.
So just take it out of the septics?
No. It has to have a secondary treatment. I mean, you have to treat it. Walmart, Smith's, Vista Larga, anybody connected to your system right now has to put in a treatment plant if they cannot meet the limits that plant's currently designed for. That's what the ordinance say. That's what was not detailed in the presentation.
Okay.
So if they are discharging, the septic tank doesn't meet the criteria, they have to put in a treatment plant.
Okay.
I want to also address the consideration of the council. It says decision, don't know what it is, not going to stick around, have other commitments, but you have item 4D on the agenda, sewer system collection line design decision. I'm asking the governing body, I've been here multiple times, you'll get my letter in response to the sewer service. This is besides the fact, I'm not going to discuss a whole lot about the history of the wastewater plant, the wastewater system, but there's a lot there. And to hear some of the questions at the meeting last time, you should have answers. Those documents are available in Town Hall. If for some reason they're not, I don't know why. I've seen them, I have some. But I would ask that consideration of the line extensions be first and foremost, as the original system was funded, designed, and put into place to protect groundwater in the commercial corridor. That was why you got $6-point-some million for the plant and $4-point-some million for the lines at the time, is to protect drinking water because you have high nitrates. That was the goal of the wastewater system, why you got the multi-million dollars and a lot of it in grant money at the time. The second, and yes, I have an interest because I've been here for about 6 meetings now, is to provide wastewater service to those that have submitted an application for service, and that application has been signed off on and acknowledged by the town. And that's all I have. I'm going to leave the letters if you don't mind. You can put that to the file, please. That's for the record. It's for the- Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dennis. Is there anybody else who would like to get up and speak tonight? Not on here? Anybody? Okay, we'll move along.
Can I, really quick, Councilor Smith? I don't know if he attached the letter I sent, but if you'd like a copy, I have a copy.
I
You
think
wanna
that
pass
would be
them this way?
appropriate.
Yeah,
Oh, this is his letter.
this is the response letter, but I don't know if you have a copy of the
Oh.
letter I sent. It might just be more content, more context.
Steve, I have 2 copies left over here.
You can put them with this.
Okay.
Okay.
Spares.
You've had time to read that. While we'll move on to the next item, sewer connection discussion. Councilor Sherry Abraham. Go ahead, Councilor.
Okay. I did want to bring up tonight some concerns that I have about the fact that we are expanding our collection system to residential areas, and without providing it to the commercial corridor. I know there are applicants in the commercial area who are looking for wastewater connection, and instead, that is our last, it appears that that's the last place we're going to expand these lines to. So my question is, why all of a sudden did we design a commercial plant, and now our main focus is to get residential people connected to it?
To dilute the commercial strength going into it.
Okay, so my question is, why don't we first try using some of the extra water that we have in that pond that we have no use for, and run it right through the system and see if that dilutes it? Because if that works, then we need to verify. The last thing we want, all of us want, is another boondoggle plant. And so, if we can absolutely make sure that what we're doing this time is the correct way, because I am very concerned that in midstream, all of a sudden, we just change engineering firms because we didn't like what they presented.
I will say, can I respond to that?
Yes.
Councilor Abraham, we did not change engineering firms. Dennis Engineering resigned from us. There was never anything from the town. We did not initiate a change. They submitted 2 resignation letters, but that did not come from us.
And Mayor, Council may also address, the PER was adopted and accepted. So that is essentially a nice document we have sitting on the shelf. We simply cannot afford it. Well, we're told by several funding agencies that they will not fund the plant proposed in the PER, which is why NMED recommended we get a technical memo, and they recommended we get it from a firm who has no connection to our plant. So we essentially have a new, fresh set of objective eyes looking at the plant.
Okay, so when we get this technical memorandum, is NMED going to look at it, approve it before it comes to us for approval?
Yes, they have to accept it, they're funding it. It has to go to NMED, they have to review it, and they have to approve it.
And then are they going to guarantee that we have a plant that is expandable so that we can have economic development and meet our commercial needs, which is why we built a plant to begin with?
They will not guarantee that. They are going to approve the technical analysis memorandum and say, this is solid work, but no. Beyond that, they're not going to guarantee that we're going to, if we don't do the work, then they're not going to guarantee that it's going to get any better.
Okay, so you are looking for a decision on this collection line tonight, is that correct?
We talked with Cody there, and we may not need a decision on this tonight. May just decide to go ahead and, he's gonna get up here when we discuss it, may just decide to push forward to 60% on the whole thing there. We've got a couple ideas, that's why he's here tonight, to help us sort of figure out what our next move is.
I have another answer for that too. The design area Smith picked out was a design area identified in the PER. So they didn't create the design area. The design area was already identified in the preliminary engineering report. He and Smith Engineering did not come up with that. They basically took what we had agreed to in the preliminary engineering report and said, you guys have already identified the design area. We're just going to go ahead and do the work to design that out.
Okay, and were they the ones that assigned the phases, or did we?
Mayor,
We-
council,
oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
pardon me.
No.
The phases that are in there are, they're meaningless. They are not a construction schedule. They are not, we're going to be doing this, we're going to be doing this section.
Well, and I understand that this is a conceptual design. However, in the HDR report, it said that we're going to have so many residential customers connected within the year.
Phase one is not conceptual. Phase one is actual. Church Street is an actual construction phase.
Okay, so all of the people that live along Church Street are going to have to vacate their septic systems, crush them, fill them, and hook on at an expense to them. But yet the commercial corridor that is currently being served, not all of those businesses are currently connected, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
And is that going to be enforced before we start designing this, before we start building this other line?
Yes, Mayor, council, as we asked you at the last meeting, if you will, we needed direction and guidance from you, the governing body. You did pass an ordinance, and we asked you if you wanted us to enforce that ordinance. The direction we believe we received was, yes, enforce the ordinance.
Okay,
Part of the question we had was, we have no idea why it was not enforced in the past. So,
well, I think there was maybe a change in leadership or something.
but moving,
It's got a
There was an
2015 date on it.
Yeah, but wasn't it adopted just
No, it was amended.
2/17? It was amended?
2015.
It was amended later, but it was adopted in 2015.
Okay.
so that is our direction. I mean, that was the message we received from you, the governing body. We will go approach anyone who is within the distance laid out in the ordinance and say, per the town ordinance, you are required to connect. Here's your notification. You have 6 months to connect.
And will we have any public hearings or anything like that for the public to weigh in on this before we start construction?
For the,
For the residential areas?
Well, we're not amending an ordinance. That would generate a public hearing. I don't know what would you gin up a public hearing on?
Well, a town hall or something like that, I think would, just informing.
So an informational meeting only, maybe? That's not,
The letters have went out though, right?
what letter is that?
To the new rate increases and stuff like that?
The new bills have gone out,
Yeah.
yes,
But that's only to the people that are currently connected.
correct.
That has nothing to do with the people who will be connecting. And then the other thing is, I would like to get estimated additional flow and see how close to capacity we're gonna be if all these people hook up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and I started that calculation, I just didn't get to it, but I will email it to you and I'll bring it to the next meeting.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I'm still concerned about how these people are expected to come up with that kind of money, and we haven't come up with a plan
Yep.
to somehow mitigate the sticker shock that they're going to be looking at. So,
I know that Juan and I have started to talk to some people about it, USDA, some other people about how you can implement this. There was some talk with attorneys already, and very generally, about almost doing like a tax, what did he call it, Juan?
sewer district kind of thing?
Yes.
Yes, so something,
Yes.
it's like, essentially like some sort of PID, property tax type,
Right.
where it gets
So they
billed
can-
out onto that
We finance
property.
it, and they pay it off through their tax bill.
Correct.
Correct.
And that's not, that doesn't say that's where we're going, but we are looking at options so people don't get hit all at once.
We've also, we've reached out to Rural Water for, just to looking at other examples of other communities and
Yeah.
what have they done to lessen the blow, so to speak.
It was actually in the South Valley that they told us they did, like the district where they.
Yeah, the improvement district.
Yes.
And I mean, we've even had some where they billed them out over the course of 2 years. You
I
know,
had a dickens of a time trying to find Fred. Of course, Teresa's not with them anymore. They were awful good help on that kind of stuff.
They certainly were.
Yeah.
And I haven't tried to contact Fred either. I had a deer die in my front yard.
Too many pictures took of them.
In a very good news, Teresa will still answer my calls even though she's working in Farmington now. She'll
Oh,
still
she's
give
still-
advice.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
she
good
was
to hear.
awful good help. They would be a logical choice to talk to on it, because,
Yeah, how do we get it funded?
yeah,
And, that's something that you might want to discuss with Municipal League too, because they've seen this sort of thing come and go. They might have some thoughts that we haven't thought of.
Juan and I are in a municipal league conference this week, and the first thing they told us is, you do not have a problem that somebody else here has not already had.
That's what they told us at Molly too. Okay, those were my only
you got
concerns.
2 more days down there, so you can find somebody with a problem like this one.
That's hard to do. Actually, we are kind of unique. in
Tell that one to
sense.
quit coughing at you long enough to let you tell her what your problem is. Maybe she's got somebody she knows.
Oddly enough, there is only one other municipality that only owns their sewer system.
Who's that?
Clovis, right? They don't own their water either.
That's true, because
Yes.
the same company owns
Both of them.
both us and Clovis.
Yeah.
They got anybody there?
I don't think so. I
But they
will
do
try
have
to
their
find
sewer
it.
system, right?
They do.
Gayla Brumfeld would be a good contact. She's a former mayor down there. She's also had something to do with extending a line to the Brantley Dam in the past few years since she's been mayor. And she's a Realtor who's generally very generous with information, but Gayla Brumfeld.
I could reach out to that Clovis mayor. We were all talking to him down at that mayor's summit. Everybody was getting around him because he dealt with that library shooting. And I don't know if he'd even remember me, but a bunch of us were talking to him. We lined up and
But I
yeah, reach out to him. And
I expect Gayla had met these issues before this gentleman was mayor. She's probably had some hands-on experience with the sewer. I can't remember whether she was there for 2 terms.
was she on their council or?
No, she was their mayor
Oh, at Clovis.
in Clovis.
Okay.
And I first met her through the Realtor
Yeah,
Association, but she's, I think I called her when we were looking at the membrane systems on sewage treatment plant and that kind of thing. But I would ask her how they got funding from what agency when they
Yeah.
didn't own their water system and we're in their same boat.
yeah.
But, feel free to use my name. It may or not, she may or may not remember.
That
But
was Gala,
Brumfeld.
Gala.
And I don't know exactly how to spell it, Brumfeld or Feldt. You might find her through the Realtor Association listings in in Clovis. And some of the counselors down there may know how to get in touch with her.
Yeah.
I didn't have a hard time at the time, but I knew what my routes were to reach her.
What kind of plant do they have?
I don't know, but she will. I think I would, you want to talk to somebody who's forthcoming, and that's what she is.
Yeah.
And she's very forthcoming.
Okay. What else you got, Counselor?
That's it.
Okay. Put this all together in there. Next item then is matters from mayor. I've got several. Brews on Bachelor. Only thing I was gonna say on that, Susan, that, I guess I'd call it a qualified success.
408 people through the
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
They had, it wasn't crowd the field kind of stuff, but for a first time. There may have been a couple things, may have been a little too cool in the evening, maybe shove it back next year a little more into September or something. But it was a good shakedown run, I mean,
Folks who came really enjoyed it. I will make one suggestion. My husband is disabled, and unless you wore a chair, there was no place to sit.
there were they had some of them sofas out there.
A couple of picnic benches,
Yeah.
and the sofas. You're right.
So it was.
Any ideas you got or anybody on a way to make it, a little more successful? Everybody kind of thought it was getting a little cool there in the evening, and the bonfires, that went over big. I mean, you burn something, they just jump all over it. But look for ways to improve it. Maybe a little earlier into September or something. It did collide with the first weekend of the balloons. So it's sort of in between the fair and the balloons, maybe shove it back just a little bit. They also said need to get out the word, like down at McCall's Pumpkin Patch or something, if you're done here, go up to Moriarty or Edgewood and lick her up or something.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to invite her to come in and give us some thoughts, because she
Sure.
brought up a very good point. And it's not off of our radar screen to look into those changes, and she may have some more thoughts that time won't allow for tonight.
Mayor,
Would
Council-
you be willing to do that, Susan?
We do have an election coming up, and if it is the will of the governing body, we can put a resolution forth and put it to the voters. I mean, now is your time to do it.
Well, that's.
Oh, on your Sunday liquor sales.
Right, right.
Oh, yeah.
Right, I'm sorry, Susan.
I lost it.
I wasn't being specific.
We're gonna try to plan to get that on the ballot.
I
So,
think you're missing out on.
oh, I got a brother that stocks in them stores, and they tell him down there that Moriarty Foods just gets run over on a Super Bowl Sunday. They have to hire extra people on, so I've been aware of it really since day one.
It's just a loss of money.
The other thing is Citizens Police Academy. Counselor Hollies went up there. My sister-in-law, and several other people told me what about it, so I went and sat in on the last go-around. Chief, kudos, you guys have done an excellent job on that. That one was about traffic stops. Seems like a pretty benign thing, but there's quite a bit of thought that goes into a simple traffic stop. When we're in there, we see them pull behind us with the lights on, and we're doing whatever it is we do. But there's a whole lot of thought goes into what they do back on their end. And that's just one of the things they've got. They had several others, as Counselor Holly said, the animal control one, and was it domestic violence was the other one there? They've got several coming up. One's with the shooter thing.
Decisional shooting tomorrow night's drugs and street gangs, then crime scene next week.
I would encourage any of you to go. The only problem, they're kind of limited on their seating space in there, and they've limited it. But counselors, if you want to slip out there and see one of them, it's pretty informative. And I would definitely encourage anybody else to slip out there, but work with the chief on that. If, you know, try to get into the things, you can get a spot in the class there. It's mostly full in there, but I guess a couple of them didn't show up. Nicole.
My car died.
But anyways, yeah, kudos to the chief and Sarge out there. That's a pretty neat program, and hope to see more of it.
It's held in the police building.
I guess if you get over here, you'll have that big training room. You can have
More room.
even more room in there for more people. But yeah, it's pretty neat. The other thing I got tonight is this resolution. We were talking about site visits and stuff like that. So we put that in there. I thought the council had we used to do it at the commission, a yearly operating resolution, but I guess you just have that. Send them all down. So I've come up with this. It's all just FYI for tonight. It's information to consider, guideline for site visits by the governing body. And on the last page, an idea for what we might incorporate into this resolution. Here is an example of the P&Z's yearly resolution. And back when I got in there, they were doing these, and you'll notice they have site visits back here where I marked it. They had that all the time. They had a procedure in there governing how they do their site visits. And we could probably do something about like that, although it would be in there. The other thing here is, this is also informational. Back when we were going to those P&Z trainings, we had these come across our radar from Tom Mills. He was one of them attorneys that would visit and tell us how it's done. You want one of them? Yeah. And direct you back in it. He's got ex parte communications, what they may include, and that does include independent investigations such as visiting the site proposed for development. And so this is why we need to kind of develop us a program for this council, how we want to handle site visits, if we want to handle site visits, stuff like that. And like I say, looking through the big book, this is the only thing I could come up with that we seem to have that sort of guides how we do stuff up here. I thought we had or you guys had already had a yearly one. But anyway, looking at it, it could be squeezed in maybe back here between conduct of closed meetings and enforcement penalties or somewhere in there. Put like I say, this stuff off the back page there. Where's it at here? This right here. Suggested policy. It's just there. Think of putting this or something close to it back in here. Conduct of closed meetings could be before that, after, or whatever. And so I'm just giving you that tonight just for FYI to consider that we take up adopting some kind of site visit procedure for the governing body.
Mayor, council,
Yes, sir.
they also kind of went over having an operating resolution for the governing body earlier this week at our training.
Yeah.
And very similar to the one you handed out with the P&Z, they, said it recommended that the governing body have something similar, which calls out the date, how, and the time of the council meeting, so first and third
Right.
Wednesday.
In other words, we would take that up every year and just go over it. Do we want to stick with the first and third Wednesdays? Do we still want it at 6? Just do a little gut check of all the various stuff. And I couldn't remember, I thought you guys had one of them, but I don't see anything in there like that. This one's 2012-23, it's a little dated. It's mostly for the conduct of, it's got in there quasi judicial and stuff, motions, closed meetings. And so that's about where I guess we would look at trying to put something together and put it in this outfit and update it.
And Mayor Council, it also, they also recommended when in the resolution, you also put how you would like your minutes to be.
Yeah,
Because right now, we're slowly getting almost to verbatim.
I agree.
Is the way our minutes are coming in. Minutes are supposed to record the actions, that's the main purpose, but we've gotten away from that and are now getting closer towards verbatim, which is fine. If the governing body wants verbatim, just let us know, but also keep in mind that it'll also take additional time to get those draft minutes out. But
you would put language in this thing about how we want the minutes
right, just
worked up?
how you guys are calling out your operating procedures for the year, for the conduct of meetings and minutes, recording the meetings, how you all wish to operate.
So what did they tell you, that a yearly operating resolution?
Essentially, they said
Only because.
it coincides and it goes above and beyond just adopting the Open Meetings Act every year.
Right.
It actually calls out and gives
Yeah.
you all as the governing body your guidance.
Yeah, we had that, and, it was like every year we'd start off in January, well, it's everything, sometimes you tweak it, sometimes you didn't hardly change nothing, but it spelled out quorum, duration of meetings. It's got a thing in here on minutes, prepared using notes, the date, time, place of the meeting, name of commissioners, agenda items, substance of the proposals, name of citizens who addressed. And like I say, somewhere I had it in my head that council also had one of these, but I couldn't find anything.
And I think they do that because as we learned statutorily for minutes, there's not a lot that's really necessary. So
Yeah.
they lay it out in their operating resolution. If you just followed the statute, it would be names, locations, who was absent, and what the votes were.
Okay.
Yeah, and they said, it doesn't prohibit, if there is some sort of controversial item that comes up that the governing body can request, we would like a verbatim of this section, but they wanted that limited more towards action items, not necessarily just general discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I'm very pleased to hear this feedback because we did meet that in the past. And I think when you got your first training with Mr. Van Black, he said, you want the minutes to recite the business of the meeting, not who shot John. And, but I would like to point out that on this provision of rules governing the conduct of meeting, on the second page, the first paragraph 1, it says, the provisions of this resolution shall be applied with common sense in order to effect the purpose of this resolution. And I thought, I love the word common sense. I recognize it's not as common as we think it is. But, we're so enamored of the spoken word that we forget the spirit of law giving and law interpretation. It's not all about the word. So I'm going to hang my hat on some common sense. Thank you very much.
Well, on that note, we will, like I say, this is all FYI tonight. Just take it home, study it up, and we'll take it up again at some point in the future here. But I just kind of wanted to get that out there in front of you. Last thing I have then is Chuck's got a bit of a problem with this. It's the groundbreaking for First Choice over there on Friday, November 3rd at high noon, 12 noon. And they put East Mountain Regional Health Center He's called it in. I've been talking to the guys up in Santa Fe who's putting it together. It's Mountain and Valley Regional Health Center. Is the name out there on the sign. I guess that's their, what do you call it? Not their bylaws or whatever, but that's their official name.
Their DBA?
Something like that, yeah, with the Secretary of State or something. So we've been going back and forth with them, trying to, this is already out there, but hopefully by November 3rd at noon time, whatever signs and stuff are up, it'll be for Mountain and Valley Regional Health Center. But that is when the groundbreaking will be, and if you need RSVP, there's a number there, you want to write it down. It's 505-986. (6216), and it'll basically get you Tony Flores's voicemail. I ran into that. I think
Could you
did
give me
too.
that number again?
Yeah,
please?
it's area code 505-986-6216, and that goes to Tony Flores, who's the, what is he, assistant county manager, I think. So set your calendars for the 3rd. And that's all I've got, matters from the counselors. Counselor Holly.
Well, first I'd like to acknowledge Cub Scout Pack 185. We met with some fine scouts here tonight before the meeting, and they had some real good questions for those of us that came early enough to meet with them. We met with Tristan and Tyler Tibbetts, Nathan Jones, and Sam Edwards. So I appreciate them coming out this evening. It was fun to talk with them. And as the mayor said, I've been attending the Citizens Police Academy, and so since our last council meeting, I did hear our officer Tim Dvorak on animal control, and again last week the chief presented traffic investigations, and it really is informative. I've been watching now as I'm seeing people stopped on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And finally, I did want to also say hats off to staff and everyone that works so hard on Brews on Bachelor. I got a lot of positive feedback, and people are looking forward to next year's event already too. And I also want to commend Roger Holden. He seems to be at everything that we're doing here in
Yep.
town, and he's got lots of good photos on the website, so if you haven't seen them, check them out. I think that'll do it.
Counselor Abraham.
It's been mentioned here a couple times, animal control. I just wanted to see, is there any update on when that ordinance may be coming forth for more
Yes.
approval or
Mayor,
comment?
Councilor. So we reached out to the supervisor for Santa Fe County Animal Control. They are not planning on bringing their ordinance, I guess, to the commission, I believe is what it is, to the commission, until January. And with that's the language we're looking for the leash laws and the trolley systems. That's the language we're looking for. So we don't know if we want to mirror what they have right now or if it's going to get changed in 2 months. So we're kind of at a hold up on that. Everything else is ready to go, and we can get that over to Randy as soon as possible, with the exception of that paragraph at the end there.
We could probably go ahead and do that. I mean, if we had to change it later on that. I know what you're talking about. You want it to line up so
Yes.
the language is similar for the town of Edgewood as it is out in the county.
Yes, so they've got their draft version of it,
Yeah.
which, unless anything changes, that's what it's going to be. So we can send everything we currently have over to Randy for viewing on that.
Yeah, let him polish it up. He's been gone though, right? He was, I think he's still out even today.
Is he out?
Probably won't be back till about the 23rd.
Mayor, council, if you like, we could put it on the agenda for the call for public hearing next
Okay,
meeting.
we could do that. That's a month out, so it'll be out in November there. Yeah, it's pretty close to ready. Like you said, there's a couple things hanging out there on it. And mainly getting it to Randy, just let them polish it, see if there's anything weird, that needs fixed, but it's about ready to go on it. And then that would be public hearing on that. I don't know if it would turn out the crowd we had last year. But, yeah, if it's about that close, let's go ahead and get it to him.
it's that one I can hand over tomorrow.
Yeah, get it over to him. Like I said, I'm not sure he'll be back just yet. He was, the end of last week and a big chunk of this week or something, he's gone, and then he'll be back. But anyways, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Counselor Simmons?
I really don't have anything other than my son has come to escort me to town council. I got released from home health care today, which I figure now I can try driving if you'll let me.
Not yet, huh? Seeing a vigorous shaking of the head back there.
Don't want police academy.
If you're still around, Jim, take her down to that one tomorrow night. It's kind of interesting. Next item is matters from the clerk treasurer, Mr. Torres.
Mayor, Council, did want to give you an update on the audit. Once again, if you in the office, stop by and tell Dora thank you very much for all of her hard work. Their field work was last week. They did come out. We were able to get them everything they requested right away. They're still testing and requesting additional information. We hope to have a exit conference within the next 2 to 3 weeks. It does look like we will have 2 findings removed. As it sits right now, that might change as they conduct their, finish their field work. Looks like we are going to have an additional finding. This one is going to be on travel and per diem. And shame on me, I made an assumption. The town operates on calendar year for travel and per diem rates. So the rates that were, our reimbursement form had 55 cents in 2016. I came in April of 16, so the form was already there. I just continued into the new fiscal year. And so when we hit 2017, then I went and looked up the new federal rates and adjusted the form. So we were 1 penny off on our travel and per diem. So initially, it looked like it was going to be a finding for 90 cents, but they found several other transactions, so we might be, I'm guessing, up to $5. Once they get to that finding portion, I will have them include the dollar amount of the overpayment, just so it's there for the record, but level of materiality. But it looks like that will be a finding. I do not know of any other findings so far. If I catch wind of them, I will let you know.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I find it truly offensive that the state government will not even look at a question of gross receipts tax if it doesn't reach $1 million. And why we have to answer for anything as minimal as $5 or $20. There ought to be a level at which it's not worthy of the attention.
Yep,
But then that's my grousing.
fair enough.
Mayor, Council, the other thing I want to just let you know is we'll be bringing forward some additional changes to our personnel policy. Just this week showed us some areas where we're lacking, where we need to do some updates, just legal updates, case law changes. So as soon as we finish our month block of training, I'll try and start getting that going and bring in changes to the policies as needed.
You guys are down there all the way through Friday, and then you have the election school in early November there.
Right.
And then I'm gone next
We
week to
have
the infrastructure.
and then we have budget conference, and then Government Finance Officers Association, so we're,
And then the rural water from USDA conference in mid-November. Could be
Yeah.
5 weeks of conferences.
and unfortunately, a lot of it is mandatory training.
I know it.
Where they give you the updates. The one I was hoping to get out of it this year was the DFA budget conference, but it looks like they're going to be introducing some mandatory changes for the next fiscal year,
Yeah,
which are going to require the town to adopt the state's chart of accounts, which is going to be a nightmare. Actually, it's going to be a nightmare for every entity, because every entity has their own accounting system, their own accounting structure, and to force everyone to go to a unified structure, in theory, it's great, but it's going to cause a nightmare just with conversion and doing crossover accounts, but it looks like the state is going to move forward with enforcing that on everyone, so I'll be in attendance at that conference just to,
So heads up, they're not going to be in the office
And then
a
you've got to
lot.
go to the ADA conference.
yes, I do have to go to the ADA conference, but that is not until February, I believe.
So one other question then, following up what Counselor Simmons said, you're rubbing shoulders with a lot of your neighboring municipalities and that. Any more talk on that lawsuit or anything, that class action thing?
Still waiting for the
Yeah,
league attorneys to, I guess,
yeah.
figure out how they're going to structure that one.
We had that little webinar a couple months ago, and they left it unsettled what their next move was. But a lot of interest out there, and just the issue you raised there of how come we can't get any accountability out of Santa Fe on questions we send up there. And so that was what they were grousing about.
And yet we have to account for each and every penny.
You gotta make sure you take a deposit in every night. Or they ding you on that, even if there's hardly anything in the bag. So. Anyway, if that's it, appreciate the update on your current conference there. Anything else you learned, bring it back here and share it with us.
Yes, sir.
Next is action items, and the first one there is the approval of the promotion of James Solomon to maintenance supervisor. Council, you have in front of you a letter of interest from James, and you've got also his employment application. This is a new position we set out there. Where's James at? Why don't you come on up and visit with us a minute?
Hello. We missed you. Would you like to come sit over here by me?
For you that don't know, that's my daughter, my wife over there.
Hi there.
Homegrown paparazzi, huh?
Yep. I'm really excited about this. I appreciate the opportunity here. I think we're gonna be able to do a very good job.
I think you defined your own job description by your conduct and your abilities. So I'm delighted that our town government is responsive enough to see the kind of work you were doing and give the job description that you are doing as you define it and see the need. And we see the rationale for that job description, and we appreciate your guidance.
Yep. So council, I'll entertain a motion to approve the promotion of James Solomon to maintenance supervisor.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the promotion of James Solomon to maintenance supervisor.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve James Solomon and a promotion to the job of maintenance supervisor. Let's do this one on a roll call vote, starting on that end. Counselor Simmons?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Thank you, council. Welcome aboard, James, again.
They're excited.
You couldn't get them to bark at another one like that if you wanted them to.
Every time we clap, they bark.
Well, yeah, but they know James Solomon, too. This little one was out there chasing him one day. He was running a front-end loader, was it? Big one.
Yeah, backhoe, I think.
And boy, my dog was giving him fits. Well, I finally figured out the issue. This must be a herding dog also. And he says, as long as he's got everybody in the place that he's assigned them, he's okay. But when you get up and move, well, he's after you.
Okay, the next item then is a little bit convoluted. Stick with me and we'll get to it. So this is what we've been going back and forth on with the Mexico Finance.
Now, this is the one that I was so anxious for us to sign.
It was.
And they're saying, well, no wonder I was anxious to get it signed, because I knew this was coming.
So it starts off with Rita Jennings. She's got this here. We were on the phone with her, told her we had this meeting coming up. Could we get anything ready? Because they were aiming for the 2nd. We told them, well, all due respect, can we get it going any sooner because we got this meeting coming. So she come around with what the stuff is. They've got a draft resolution in here. And they've got a revised timetable. Anyway, we had to come up with the resolution that's here, and then they've also sent us an amendment agreement, and I've got it here. And then they also needed from Juan that request for an extension. So let me get this stuff out here. First one is Juan's letter to them requesting an extension. So we've got that one into them. Carmela, she sent it over to Leslie there at NMFA. The next one then is this amendment agreement. We didn't have it in time to put into your packets. There it is, and I urge you to, let's take a few minutes and just flip through it here and kind of look it over. I don't know that it needs anything of the council's action, but this is what we'll be signing to amend the agreement. This is what the resolution is, what's going to take council action here tonight. And that was what was in the packet.
Mayor, council, so part of the reason for the extension is NMFA loans the money to us at a loan, but they as an agency organization take out bonds, and so the original sale of their bonds had a date of, all proceeds must be spent by, I believe it was December 20th, 2017. This year. So we need to request an extension, or else they run into tax issues with their bonds. So we had to send all this information in.
And that's got that in here under the whereases, up on that second page. Starts in about how loan was pledged to bonds issued, and goes down through there, lays out how they weren't all expended. We do have to come up with a resolution number tonight. Well, I guess we've got it on here.
17.
Yeah, 1719. But anyway, that's in there. And then at the extension and amendment to loan agreement, goes through new project. The extension of time, yeah, there's where the April 18th is. Amending to requisition form. Turn over to the next page, the effective date. And Juan and I both had the same question, if that December 1st needed to be moved out into April to coincide with like the last spending of the money. She said, no, this December 1st date, hopefully by then we've got all this paperwork approved and shifted around and stuff. That's the end of like the haggling period, and then the money's available. And this is only just for the administrative office stuff. The police and the municipal court's already been taken care of. So this is the balance of the money needed for the administrative, right?
Well, yes, for the funding, yes, it's for the administrative building, but for timeline, for the extension would be for
all of it.
For all of it, because
Right.
the tentative timeline for the police, they would complete construction, I want to say, it's estimated roughly 2 days after the funding, the current timeline
Right.
ends. Same thing with the court. I think the court would finish actually maybe a day before.
Yeah.
So this just makes sure we have that timeline.
Think about that, we had that timeline, that one that you'd actually sent them. Both of them can almost, or Juan had them listed out with Bruce Martin theirs in December, because they can start on this one and then shift over there while they're working on this one. because most of what they're doing out there at the municipal court one's gonna be outside and some other stuff that's, shouldn't interfere with you guys working out there. But they can probably get both of them, knock on wood, by the end of the year, maybe. But anyway, and so then it comes down here, there's Suzanne Wood Bruckner, she's the one we've been dealing with there at Sutton Thayer Brown. And they would sign off on this, I sign it there, Juan. I don't know, who's this, Bach? N.A. whatever.
Sutton Thayer.
Sutton Thayer again. And then here's what they send, that Exhibit A, form of requisition. And that's all stuff that they'll be signing, correct?
Yes.
But anyway, so this is what we will be signing if the council approves this resolution. And this is the changes that'll be taking place and the extension of the time. And they needed that letter from Juan, which he got into them. We just haven't heard anything back that they've accepted it or anything, right? But they needed the resolution and they needed the letter, and that should have been it. But I say that too many times and come back, we need one more little thing. And so then we have the resolution.
And the interesting thing to me is this extension of time is not needed because of construction. It will happen quickly.
Right.
It's all been the nitpicking of times, and it's been government agencies.
They're less than a half mile apart, NMFA, the Board of Finance, and it's like you just slip down there, you all have a conversation, back and forth, back and forth. Anyway, let's see, put that there. Is this one of them where we got to read it into the record?
Yes, sir.
And go ahead, if you haven't looked it over, look at it a minute there, but it's got all its whereases, comes down through here. It has we adopted the resolution authorizing the new project. That's where we added administration back into it. Goes through. Got the boilerplate. It's got to have the notice of adoption of resolution. It's got to be available to the public. And we got to provide them with a copy of tonight's meeting agenda that it was dealt with. So you'll have to add that on there. So I don't know, do we need to start out and fill this front page out?
That can all be done after.
Okay.
All we need is a motion.
Who the heck was that?
Oh, it was the heater.
No.
Somebody basketball out there.
Oh,
Slammed the ball up on the wall, I think.
oh,
It's either a motion to approve or disapprove the resolution as it reads,
as it is.
as it is written.
Okay, I move that we approve the resolution number, okay,
This one's 2017.
17-19,
Better write that in up here, -19.
restating and replacing resolution number 2017-13,
Let me see the,
as written.
if I got that. That one, this one may have it. Yep, the one in the packet had it. I guess that's an extra one I had. Do we got to read it in then?
No, we got clarification in our class that you could state as written.
As written,
And I did say as written.
okay. Motion's been made to approve resolution number 2017-19, restating and replacing resolution number 2017-13. You got a second?
As written.
As written, right, as written. We got a second on it. Let's do this one on a roll call vote as well. Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Counselor Simmons?
Aye.
Thank you, counsel. Carmville, and that'll be the last we see of that thing for a while. But I've said that before, just like we did in July, we changed that, and we've done that poor old school lease to death.
And I was so grateful that we did hold to that and get it done, because, you know, you don't know until it's done and you've got the money in hand.
And what Carmella was telling us is because we were running up on December here, is when the thing expired, so we needed to get all that request for extension and another resolution to replace the one from July, so we can get it all into them. So with this tonight, we'll get it all signed up and stuff. They'll have everything they asked for. I don't know what else, but like I say, what we hear from is bond counsel, and that's that lady at Sutton Thayer, and they've got, we need one other little thing here. Okay, what's that? And then we off to the races, decide to try to see what all they want. Okay, the next item then is findings of fact, conclusion of law on the matter of appeal of a decision made by Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Edgewood, application for minor subdivision by Jonathan Pillars. Council, you have it before you there. I'll entertain a motion on that.
I move we approve the findings of fact and conclusions of law in the matter of an appeal of a decision made by the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Edgewood of an application for a minor subdivision by Jonathan Pillars.
Motion's been made to approve the findings of fact, conclusion of law in the matter of an appeal, decision made by Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Edgewood. We got a second? Hearing nothing, matter dies for lack of a second. Next item then will be the sewer system collection line design decision. And this brings us back to the sewer issues. And this was the one put in there. That's what I had last time. So Cody, if you want to get up and kind of take us through this.
Okay. I'm in there. I think I was here a couple meetings ago. And
Right.
I'm sure I was really clear on what we're looking for at this time. Basically, what we're looking for at this time is we provided a 30% layout, and the next step that we're going to do for the next 6 months is take this to a 60% design phase, what you're seeing there, the whole layout. And then once we get to the 60% design phase, at that time, you guys will elect on what you guys want to do for phase 2.
Okay.
And that could be, we anticipated about a $1.5 million project just based on how some of the funding agencies work, but you guys can look at whatever dollar amounts you want to look at for project size, connection types, areas, existing connections, flow rates that you're going to see that you can handle, like a wastewater treatment plant, whatever you guys want to look at. And then once we get the phase 2 project selected, we'll take that to 95%, which you guys can utilize to get funding from different funding agencies.
Yeah.
That's really the intent of it, and then that will be used as bid documents subsequently once it's funded.
So we could forego these alternative 1s and 2s tonight, just you go ahead with a 60% design on the whole area?
No, for the alternative 1s and 2s, that's one thing that we wanted to present at the 30% design phase, is give you guys some options. And the reason those are really coming up is that we're looking at more or less some route loads. I mean, we got a pumping option, which is a little cheaper than gravity feed across private property, or we could go deep sewer or go across, again, private property. So that's why we wanted to give you guys those options, and then with the direction on which way you guys want to go with either alternative 1A or 1B or alternative 2A. So you got a selection to make between alternative 1A and 1B, and then another selection to make between alternative 2A and 2B. And basically what we want to look from there is just get written comments on any of the layout that you see there and which alternatives to look at.
That you read?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mayor, Council, Cody, if you may, can you please just explain the difference of doing the alternative 1A, 1B versus the deep sewer in 2A, and the short-term, long-term cost.
Okay. Yes, I can. I don't have the comp in front of me, but I'll leave you guys to on these packets. So alternative 1A versus 1B. The gravity, 1A is gravity line, correct me if I'm wrong. It's a gravity line system. Apologize, I was not in my office this week. But, okay, so 1A is the lift station. We'll install a lift station near the senior center on Quail Trail, in the low swale there, to pump up to Church Street. That estimated project would be $388,000, and it requires less, it's a smaller footprint, so there'd be less easement, less land acquisition. But the problem with lift stations is they have additional maintenance, you have operating costs with electricity and pump maintenance, pump replacement, and additional electrical engineering costs, which is electrical engineering. Option 1B is a gravity line that will go to the existing lift station and will run across private property along the swale from Quail Trail to the lift station, the existing line, and the tie into the line just west of the lift station. That cost we're estimating to be $414,000. So there's roughly a $26,000 cost difference between the two options. Not considering any maintenance costs or if there's any land acquisition costs, whatever you're going to run into in that route.
And, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I would certainly want to know in writing what any land acquisition costs would be, because I think we've got to have that in our final analysis.
Okay.
I have a question on 1B where it says one of the cons is potential damage and infiltration from floods. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, so we are running along a FEMA, it turns into a FEMA flood zone, basically where it crosses Church Street. But it is where water runs, it's along the swale, you need sticking to the lower elevations there. We would design it where you minimize that potential damage. Probably with infiltration resistant lids, if they have cans that catch infiltration, water keeps it from going into your sewer system. Collars that are bigger concrete that would not wash off during floods, but it would be an area that could be prone to flooding. So that is kind of factored into the cost here. That's why it would be a higher capital cost, but it is a con to that particular item. I'm not sure that it's bad.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Would we not have an infiltration possibility either of these? Because that flood zone is where that flood zone is, and so is the pump station.
Yep.
So we could have infiltration in any event, could we not?
It'd have to get pretty high to get up to that lift station, the way they kind of jacked it up on that little knoll there. If it was a big enough one, I guess it would get to it.
So,
I'd have to see what he's got. In other words, he's not going, you're not in the bottom of the draw.
No.
Get on the side of that old field there.
Yeah, kind of on the side of it. I mean, it's just at a higher risk, I guess.
Depends on where you get it there. If you get up high enough above where that old fence used to be, you're pretty much out of it. I mean, it's wide enough there that it'd take a hell of a rain to crawl up the side of it very far. But that kind of, you just have to see out on the ground where you propose it, you know. Obviously, the more you get up out of the draw there, less likely you're going to even have that problem.
To try to put in a mind's eye, I guess, because we have to cross that low swale, so we're going to be 3 or 4 feet below it when we begin at Quail Trail. So then we're running along it roughly at the same slope. So we're going to be about 3 or 4 feet below the flow line of that swale pretty much all the way until we tie into that sewer. Again, on Church Street, which is probably running 3 or 4 feet below the flow line, or would be close to that. So, the manhole lids and rims are your surface features, which would be the only things that are really affected. And then we put pans underneath the lids. Those lids weigh 180 pounds. They don't wash off too easy. It's just water going into them that, you don't want to treat rainwater, basically. So
Yeah.
catch up.
And then you also say that that encourages development, 1B more so than 1A. What area would that development be on?
That would be the private property development, basically, because there's some infrastructure that's a little closer for development. Where with the lift state, and I guess it is, yeah, with the lift, that's the way to cross it. It gives a sewer infrastructure that they tie into in there.
Of course, it's already out along Church there. I mean,
And-
it's in the neighborhood of it anyway.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
would you have any personal knowledge of any, it seems to me we've had a 500-year flood in the past 10 years. Have we not?
There's a pretty good one down there. Ooh. It's been within the last probably 4 years. Was it that one in 12?
12.
You
Really
know,
hammered?
I just can't remember what year
Yeah.
these things occurred.
I know it was 12 that had hammered the fences over there at Roy's and stuff. I remember that one specifically, but I don't remember that was 1 year, one way or the other maybe.
Yeah, because now,
It knocked the pea waddle out of that guy's fence on the other side.
is this Bachelor Draw that's coming across Range Road, or is it another draw?
Across range?
No, it's a draw that goes right across Cactus here.
Yeah,
Now, Bachelor draws much further up.
yeah, I've
It's
just,
this one that runs through.
I don't know if we've ever tagged a name on it.
I was just wondering if we'd ever put a name
It's
to
the
this
one
one.
that comes back through here, comes down along there.
All along that block.
Then it also comes out of Howard Court, goes across and heads north through the Key Place and meets up with it.
Okay, so, because Bachelor Draw is deep enough and far enough north
Oh, yeah, it's off the
that,
map up there.
it handled that flooding further north pretty well.
Yeah,
And so this would not be affected by Bachelor Draw. That's my concern.
yeah, no,
Because Bachelor Draw is a much stronger.
yeah.
And I didn't know if there were any areas where they could cross-communicate or,
They would be getting close down here on that Duncan Road area at the east end.
yeah,
As that goes over into Monica and Ricky's,
yeah,
just up above it, because you go on north there, you hit Don and Mary's, and that's where it's right at the, kind of the boundary between them.
yeah. And you know, I'm looking at this. Yeah.
This one here.
And I couldn't remember it ever having communication with Bachelor Draw that's a major.
Right, it would be on down in Parker's there that they'd probably get together.
Right, and I so appreciate Counselor Abraham's ability to read a topo. I appreciate that, thank you. I'm in information overload about rise and fall of land.
Yeah. So then, using this and driving around a little bit out there, I did a little bit of calculating. If you went on numbers, we're talking east of Capitol Road and north of Range. East of Capitol, south of Range, and east of, what is it, Dinah Court? Yeah, that long one there. I came up with about 68 residences in there. That's give or take, because it's tough to see everything that would happen. The Quail Trail area comes up with about 118. So based on numbers, Quail Trail at this time would put more into a line versus Range Road. Range Road might put in easier digging. Although, talking to Cody on that Robin Court alignment one, where you go east and then down that way, that would require the lift station down at the bottom of that draw on Williams Ranch, right?
Yes, so if we go down, yeah, Williams Ranch would eventually tie into the Duncan Road area.
Right, and you'd have to deep dig it over here to the south end of the Key Place up there.
Yes, if we went, this is alternative 2, so.
2B.
2B, yes.
Yeah.
So that would be deep sewer along the south end of.
Right.
What you call the Key Place there.
Yep.
It would be deep versus 2A, which would be shallow going due, north across the Key Place.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, but I just can't get it through my head which is the Key Place. I've never really
Old Man
known.
Key. Old Man Key.
See, I didn't know him.
You knew all them old timers. What we keep you around for?
You know what? They sent me to school, isolated me in Stanley. That's, okay, so this whole thing is the Key Place. Appreciate it. No, I was lucky to know the Bassetts.
But you know the Kings and most of them out that way.
Well, yeah, they went to Stanley to school. I knew the Hills and the Bassetts, and you know what? That was pretty much it.
Although you could pick which school you wanted to go to.
Well, my Aunt Bernice was teaching at Stanley, and I was a little timid. I
The
thought,
Martins up here, Sybil and them, they went to Stanley, but my dad and his bunch went to Moriarty. School buses crossed paths as they went.
well, it was just real nice to know that I could run to Aunt Bernice,
Yeah.
because I was shy.
So basically, what you're saying then, Cody, 2A and 2B would serve the Range Road area, 1A and 1B would service the Quail Trail area.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So it's sort of pick one of those to tell you on.
Yeah, 1A, 1B, or
Right,
2B.
so it's either 1A, 1B for Quail Trail, if that's the choice, or Range Road, 2A or 2B. And 2B is the deep dig, the one that requires deep digging. And if it's like up there.
It really affects the option 2A and 2B, which way you go with that, it does affect the size of the lift station that would be required on the Duncan Road area.
Yeah,
Other than that, everything else would be, between 1A and 1B, that doesn't change any of the lift station sizes.
right, so in other words, you're saying if we go with the Range Road area, you're looking at probably having to have a lift station added at the Duncan area?
Well, we got one already.
Right.
If we're taking a portion of Range Road area, a larger portion of it.
Yeah,
And taking it down to that lift station, it would be larger,
okay,
which would be the deep sewer option.
yeah.
The option 2A would require that the existing lift station, at some point, that existing lift station is going to have to be sized to handle the whole service area.
Yeah,
But when that happens, may be affected.
I guess out there at that lift station, it does have area there to put other tanks, right?
Yes,
To boost the
it has
capacity of it.
And it was anticipated to be expanded in the future.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when they got that. They had enough room to basically build a second set of everything right next to it there,
Yeah.
within that fence.
So I imagine electrical service and things like that would have to be upgraded at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and 3 phases right there, though. They got using it. So council, go ahead. Council.
Maintenance of deep sewer can be dangerous. Okay, so is it gonna be our sewer guys that will be maintaining this? And will they have to have us hire certification to maintain a deep?
Mayor, council, so, yeah, we definitely wouldn't have staff available to work on deep sewer. That would have to be contracted out, so as you said, that would be very expensive. But
I
there's,
remember them doing that up here, 344 in Church there. That got weird. I mean, they were stacking about 3 of those boxes to get them down that 20 feet. That takes a big track hole for one thing.
Mayor, council, keep in mind, even now, with our existing sewer, we do not have the staff just to handle it, or nor the equipment to do it. So, I mean, I think what, Cody, how deep would that one be?
Up to about 20 feet.
So we would have to have some pretty serious equipment to even get down that deep. Not to mention the safety equipment to work on it as well. So I think if we had the deep sewer option, at least initially, that would, if anything happened on it, we would have to contract that work out.
And does it have like routine maintenance schedule that would have to be?
Sewer, gravity sewer, no. I think what you would see, it has less, and typically it's done through manholes, flushing operations, CCTV inspection, things like that.
The deep sewer?
Even the deep sewer. It would have the same as your shallow sewer, it's just if something's wrong with it, then it's
20 feet down.
more difficult to fix.
And if it breaks or something like that, is that going to create more groundwater pollution than a more shallow system?
No, I don't think so in this case. I mean, your guys' groundwater is a ways away from it. Over time, it could, but it's not going to be that much of a difference. You're talking a 20-foot head start, I guess, going to wherever your groundwater is.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
We know we have underground caverns here.
Oh, yeah.
And the Cavity Cave is one of our better examples. How familiar are you with the formations out here, the karst formations?
I'm not that familiar, no.
You probably should provide him or have him check with Roger and look at those, the file on the Cavity Caves. They were mapped for quite a long ways.
Are any of them within this particular areas?
Well, they're up
It's a
on,
hell of a question.
yeah.
Mayor,
I think
Council,
it was 120 miles.
after the last map I saw, I do not believe they reached this far over, but according to Roger, they're still mapping out, so who knows at this point?
I would be doing some drilling because there've been many a well driller lose their tools into the caverns at varying depths, and that's how the Cavity Cave came to be. They actually enlarged one of the holes where they had lost their tools, and it wasn't that far down. And in fact, this kind of formation travels all the way to the Gulf of Mexico, the karst formations, and they're dilution channels. So you don't know when you're going to hit one. You can almost see the caverns that have collapsed as you drive through towards Santa Rosa. You see?
Yeah, and I am familiar with it over there on the Santa Rosa area originally. We had sinkholes.
Right, and we have them here too. So whatever we do, when we start looking at those depths, we need to be doing a little core sampling or something.
And we do have geotechnical investigations on this. That's one thing that we're going to do in the preliminary phase. We wanted to get buy-off on the conceptual layout before we started drilling a bunch of holes everywhere. So
Well,
that's the next step.
as long as I feel confident that those holes can be drilled and,
So would it be fair to say we rule out alternative 2B, the Robin Court alignment? So we don't have to mess with the lift station down at Duncan or the deep stuff? Whittle it back to either 2A or one of the 1As and Bs?
I think that makes sense to me to take 2B off the table, especially since Mr. Torres has said we don't have the staff or the equipment to work on any of that.
What's 2A?
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Is on page 4 of 6.
So pretty much either one of 1B or 2A, you're gonna have to do something down there, crossing the draw and going over to the current lift station.
Yeah, that piece that runs east-west. So 2A goes north, and then it hits a proposed manhole.
Yeah.
And then it goes east for, I want to say 300-400 feet.
Yeah.
That piece would have to be done with 2A. If you
Yeah.
don't get, if you don't select one.
Yeah. So really, that is a little extra on 2A there. So then it comes down to probably, is it Range Road you prefer, or Quail Trail area?
Well,
More
we
potential.
don't know the cost of acquisition of right-of-way easement yet on
Right,
alternative 1B at this point.
And also 2A.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So without those figures, I don't see that we're going to make much of a decision.
Okay.
Well, Mayor, Council, keep in mind, this is just, we do need to kind of figure this out, because Cody is trying to get the 60% conceptual design done, and so he needs to know which method we want to go with, whether it be...
Which one of these are going to give us more commercial development?
Mayor, Council, neither one of these.
Okay,
They're
so
mostly
are we
residential.
going to attempt to flush some regular water through there and see if it makes a big enough impact to do this at all?
Mayor, this is just for the overall design, conceptual design of the area. It has nothing to do with the plant, its capacity.
I know, but it does have to do with, do we need to focus on the commercial corridor or the residential corridor?
Mayor, Council, once again, this has nothing to do with the corridors. This is just the conceptual design for the overall area. I mean, the commercial corridors are designed in, area 3, I guess on the map, and, the Route 66 area, Main Street area, New Mexico 344 area. Those are all included with this overall design.
Because none of these are going to be built right away anyway.
Yeah. The idea with getting this overall conceptual design done is that should funding become available, we would essentially then qualify for shovel-ready projects. We wouldn't have to, so let's just say they came out with another round of ARA, we could then turn around and go put in, Main Street area, Range Road area, whatever the funding we qualify for, we could put it in. So this is just for the overall conceptual design, not for specific areas. And so what Cody needs is, which alternative, because that does impact how his conceptual design overall works. Is he going to have to plan for improving the existing lift station at Duncan or not, and depending on if we go with 1A or 2A or 2B. On alternative 1, the lift station's still going to be done. That's just more, do we want to add a second lift station or go with gravity? I mean, that is what we're discussing here.
Okay.
Well, I think I don't want to rush you guys to a decision, because you guys may need, I understand if you pick an option and we design it to 60% and you find out that you don't have all the facts on the table,
Right.
I don't want to be pushing you guys in those kind of directions. So that's why I've been giving you guys a 30% submittal. I'd like to get your guys' buy-off and layout and pick the alternative. So I think there's some...
And I still have concerns about our wastewater treatment plant being able to handle what it is we need it to handle.
Right, Mayor, Council, once again, this is just to have the conceptual design. It could potentially take the town 30 years funding permitting to do that. Within that period, we could have a new plant built. We can have different things done which will handle our capacity questions. We're just worried about the preliminary design of our entire service area for our current, our sewer.
You're filling in the blanks, is what you're saying.
Yes, we
This
want.
is a blank to fill in.
Yes, Mayor, Council, this is the plan for the future. So if something should become available, we do figure out what's going on with the plant. We can take on additional stuff. We build a new plant. We've got this service area built out already.
Well, and of course, since that's what this is, and land acquisition can change the perception of the value of that expense could change over time. So I think we need to look at other than private property.
Well, and send mayor, council,
So 1A addresses that. It keeps it off of private property for the most part. We don't need to,
Right.
that's,
Mr. Mayor, may I make a suggestion perhaps that we table this until we have the full complement of the governing body here? Perhaps Councilor Abrams
If that's
can
what
join
you,
us?
is that a motion?
I'm sorry, can I make one more comment?
Sure.
As part of 60% design, we are going to identify those areas that need easements and right-of-ways, and we can prepare those to get executed. So we probably deliver those with the 60% submittal, and then it'd be for the town to get those executed, and then they would be in place.
yeah, but that is gonna affect the cost that you have here at the bottom line.
So, yes, exactly. So those are some things that, some of the easements probably won't, but, I mean, on this alternative where you're picking now, you probably want to know that information beforehand.
Right.
Right. And that's, you know, I understand right-of-way easements. We've been in that business for a very long time. As the area developed, both with electricity, water, gas, and so forth, and now sewer, we have to step very carefully and be certain that all members of private property are on board or committed one way or the other before we even plan that direction. Because we can't afford what happened in the West when the railroad was coming. And they knew what route it was coming, and the prices went up so high, and the railroad said, oh no, we're not doing that, we're going around. And they left some little towns high and dry that were banking on the railroad. So you've got to be careful about that. Thank you.
And I did identify in these 30% drawings where those locations were specifically, because we didn't do complete tile research on the layouts, but I did put in, you can base it on where the layout of roads are and lot lines, that these are areas.
Yeah, where you can go in the public right-of-way.
That's what we try to stick to.
Appreciate that, I understand.
Was that a motion, Counselor Holly?
Yeah, I make a motion that we table this item for action until we have all four councilors here.
Got a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Okay, council, what else do you prefer?
Well, I would just like to have some more information, like, I mean, you know, how many landowners are we talking, what's fair market value? Some of those things included, and maybe the cost estimates, I think, would be helpful.
So this could postpone it indefinitely until we have those answers, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then I guess this begs the question, obviously we're going to postpone, but to what end?
Further information, I would think. I mean, I would like to know how many landowners are we talking about? What's fair market value that we could expect to pay, which would change the costs of 1B, because right now I like 1A best. Because of the potential infiltration problems and, you know, however, 1B encourages development, which is, if we're looking for more flow, we need development. So those are, you know, I would like to shy away from the deep, dangerous sewer, you know.
I think, like Counselor Holly said, we could eliminate 2B and get it down to either 1A or 1B.
Well, you know, in light of the fact there's so little information about what's going to be required, if we're going down Church Street, will we be in public or private there, going straight down to the,
To the existing lift station, Church Street, that is the existing sewer from
Yeah.
Quail Trail to the existing lift station.
right, and so that's in an existing easement that we can still use
Yep.
in parallel. So that appears to be the safe plan at this point, is alternative 1A. Seems to be, we have more known facts.
I'm sorry, 1A, where we're currently proposing it laid out, is not in that easement. We couldn't get up into that easement without getting too deep, because it starts going back uphill towards Church. So we're a little south until we tie in near the lift station.
So-
And how many homes did you say there would, Mayor? You said
Oh,
you-
out in the Quail Trail area?
1A or 1B, would that both be the Quail Trail area you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll both service that.
Yeah, it either runs down to the lift station there at 1A and boosts up the hill to, by the Beehive, or it turns and runs across there to that manhole over by the existing lift station.
Mayor, was that 100 and how many?
Oh, 118, the
I'm
Quail
sorry?
Trail area. That had the most numbers of potential customers.
And I had right now, we're looking at 67 current connections. Brett, were you counting future lots too in yours?
No, I just kind of tried to count the heads of the existing ones.
Okay.
That's why I say it's not scientific, it's kind of a pretty good guess.
Okay.
Mayor, council, another thing to consider, just with the overall conceptual plan, it does not include right-of-way acquisition for a lot of these sewer lines. So there will be additional acquisition, because the town, I mean, there might not be, enough in the utility easements on some of these parcels to even put a sewer line, so the town will have to go out and potentially get additional, easement for it, just in different service areas all throughout, so keep that in mind as well. So there's going to be additional costs to any service area.
Okay, we just don't know what that is. And fair market value is, if you condemn, you pay fair market value. If you don't have to condemn, that's quite another matter. If
Mayor-
easements are volunteered or gifted or whatever, that solves a lot of problems, but we're not seeing any movement in that direction.
Right, and like I said, Mayor Council, this could potentially take 30, 40 years for build-out, so the acquisition of these easements, I mean, it could happen, it may never happen. I mean, once again, this is just an overall plan, just so we have it ready.
Yes, if I may, I would recommend that when we get this preliminary design done, we get the survey done, and we get the easements prepared, that you guys do what you can to get it in place. Because that would be, if you're moving forward in the future, 20, 30 years, whenever it may be, the easement will be in place at that.
Yeah, and I agree. And so we're back to those easements. We need to know what they are and what they're gonna cost.
And those will be prepared at the end of within this next 6-month time period moving forward.
Right, but in the meantime, we're stymied because we can't say, well, go ahead and do the 60%, because we've got this unknown factor out there that could cause us some grief or not.
Cody, how much would it be just to go ahead and design out both alternatives, or all 4 alternatives? How much would that?
Let me look at the numbers. I don't think it'd be, because we're surveying, the most cost would be associated with the survey. That's just additional, but once we get there, it's not too bad. I'd have to look at it to get you the exact number, but I don't see it.
Okay,
Very low, no cost.
well,
Not, especially doing it at this time, so.
yeah, it appears that we just cannot vote on this tonight.
So,
I think we need more information.
back to Councilor Holly's motion, do you want to table it to another date?
I guess we have no other option. We're not gonna do it tonight, so we need to do something else.
Tender me a motion, then.
I make a motion that we postpone making the decision on the design phase until we have more information, to help us make a better decision,
And specifically right-of-way
and easement issues.
expense. Okay,
You second that?
I would second that.
Motion's been made second to postpone it. Is that the word you used?
Well, to do more research on it, I guess would be my thing, is I would like some more information.
So do you want to table it to a date certain, or just,
No.
I guess a motion's been made and seconded to postpone it?
Bring it forth when we have more information.
Bring it forth when you have more information. Counselor Holly?
Nay.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Counselor Simmons?
Aye.
Okay. Next item is,
I appreciate you guys' time.
thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Public hearing legislative procedure. And this is the one, ordinance 2017-03, an ordinance adopting the New Mexico Uniform Traffic Code by reference. This basically being a legislative procedure. Need to request certification, public notice of this hearing has been put out there?
Yes.
Has. It's a legislative public hearing called for the purpose of amending or adopting the New Mexico Uniform Traffic Ordinance by reference. Requirements for legislative procedure differ from quasi-judicial in several important respects. Members of the governing body may conduct their own research into the proposed ordinance, may consult with members of the public outside, and may advocate for personal opinions. Concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance. All public input governing body deliberations will primarily consist of remarks about proposed changes. Furthermore, all discussions for both for and against will be offered in a positive manner, which is consistent. Governing body of the town of Edgewood adopted a resolution for conducting business. Who wants to take this one? Carly, you handle this?
It'll be the chief.
Chief?
Mayor, council, so before you have the changes that were proposed by the municipal league, these were sent to us. It addresses 5 areas. One being, the first area is obviously just a cover page and preface. Second is the removal of Article 1 in its entirety, which you can see. You gotta understand, I'm used to looking at this in its entirety. It's over 300 pages long in the actual UTO. So this is kind of a condensed version of this, which is what applied is.
It's just stuff they
Yeah,
brought
so
forward, changes.
anything struck through, obviously removing, and anything underlined, obviously adopting into our current UTO. And for the UTO, obviously we use that to cite motorists in the municipal court and not in the magistrate court. We do have comparable state law, but we prefer to keep it here locally in that law because that's the mirror over state law. Any questions on the changes themselves or what they mean to us?
Counselor Simmons, you had some issues?
Well, because there was some missing pages, but, you know, since we had our discussion, I can see why they're really looking at specific pages. So I'd come upon page 6 and couldn't understand why I was missing a page. And this is simply taking out articles from specific pages rather than the whole. So I understand better.
Yes, and then obviously whenever you remove something, it's changing the page numbering and the flow, like subsection E, F, G, so it's just reflecting those changes.
Right.
The actual changes are on the first 2 pages here.
So that, I'm content with what I learned by, sometimes when asking the question, it's like using someone as a sounding board to help reason what went on here. So I can appreciate why they didn't send 30 pages to us. But just the specific pages. And if I thought there was something missing, there was a reason for it.
Yeah.
This is a public hearing. Does the public have anything they want to speak to it on? It's pretty much housekeeping for the year. Bring in these new things that they've worked on, added to it. So basically, you just take the old pages out and stick these new ones in.
Yes, they've actually sent us a clean copy.
Yeah.
So if or when it's adopted, then we just issue out those clean copies to the officers.
And then we just
Most
do
of
the
it's
ordinance.
definitions that they changed.
Do you have any comments or concerns or anything with the changes?
No concerns at this time. When we reviewed it, we had it about, I'd say about a month ago. We got it, and myself and Ms. Arch sat down and looked it over. Other than a few definition changes on spark arrest or what an ATV is, what a tricycle is. They're talking about like three-wheeler,
Yeah.
not a child's tricycle. And things like that. So just definitions made. But no issues from this.
So these don't require a vote.
We
They
need to
do.
make a
Yeah.
motion.
we do.
Okay, so we can go ahead and I can move to pass the ordinance number 17-13, 2017-13, an ordinance,
21703.
This one.
I'm sorry, 21703, adopting the New Mexico Uniform Traffic Code by reference.
Got a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve adoption of ordinance number 2017-03, an ordinance adopting the New Mexico Uniform Traffic Code by reference. We'll start on that end in a roll call vote. Counselor Simmons?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Thank you, Counsel. And the next item is another public hearing, zoning ordinance legislative procedure. Request certification, public notice of this hearing at 2 consecutive regular meetings has been posted as required.
It has.
Did we tabled it, right, at the last one?
Yes.
Correct.
So it's really just starting it up. Anyway, I'll read through some of this. This is a legislative public hearing called for the purpose of adopting changes to zoning ordinance 2014-02. Requirements for legislative procedure differ from quasi-judicial procedures in several important respects. Members of the governing body may conduct their own research into the proposed ordinance, may consult with members of the public outside the meeting, may advocate for personal opinions and/or those of constituents. Confirmation by members of the governing body, they have no pending land use applications which might benefit from proposed changes to the ordinance. Start on that end, Counselor Simmons.
I have no pending matters that, please, I'm sorry, you can restate, please.
Confirmation by members of the governing body, they have no pending land use applications which might benefit from proposed changes to the ordinance.
I so affirm.
Counselor Abraham,
I have no pending land use
applications?
applications that would be affected by this.
Counselor Holly?
I have no pending land use applications.
And for the mayor, I have no pending land use applications either. Concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance, and to that end, all public input and governing body deliberations will primarily consist of remarks about proposed changes. Furthermore, all discussions both for and against the proposal will be offered in a positive manner which is consistent with the governing body, Town of Edgewood's adopted resolution for conducting business. Anybody willing to, or wishing to give input to this, we'll have a little bit here. We'll let the public get up and speak to it. So with that, Michelle, go ahead and take us through what you've got here.
Basically, what we did is we cleaned up this version. I got a lot of feedback from council members, from staff, from the public, and I'd like to thank everybody that did give a hand in this because their input was very useful. We did clean up a little bit on the nuisance vegetation as well as inoperable vehicles. And we also submitted, of course, in your packet is without the strikeouts and stuff, where it's not so confusing. As you can see, there's not a lot of changes. It is more of a descriptive change where we do have something to stand on, where the community can understand what is expected, and the officer in this position can understand. The courts can understand. The courts have also weighed in on this. Judge White has told me that his view of inoperative vehicles and this type of thing may be completely different, and that he doesn't know how he would weigh in on that. If you look at the state ordinance, it goes the same way. So we're looking at a lot of appeals if we try to enforce it as it is written. And unfortunately, the district court, I don't think any of them would pass. I think we will lose each and every one of them, just because we do not have a clear description that says inoperative vehicle. So basically, it comes down to your vehicle breaks down as you're driving into the yard. It's inoperative. You can be cited for that. It is too vague. So therefore, we've just done more of a description, and that's in your section 9, starting on page 16 through 18.
Okay. I have a question here on 5C. It says is being used as storage container and, but I don't know and what.
The next line, which is E.
Okay.
The only other changes that has been made throughout this, we have moved some of the sections to be in a more clear manner where it actually reads through and flows from beginning to end. And then, of course, there, that right here. On page 63, section 38, administration and enforcement. And basically what this does is goes through step by step what the community can expect from a zoning officer that is calling into, whatever their violation may be. It steps out policies, procedures, what they can expect from the office itself, what they can expect as the process goes through. And then, of course, down into the penalties issued by the state law.
Mr. Mayor, is this conditioned upon the size of the lot that they can search? Because, I live on a ranch. They exist out there. The inoperative tractor, the harrow that doesn't have anything to...
I know well.
It does, if I can speak to that fact, the only cases that I go out on at this time is if I have a complaint. So if your neighbor calls in and complains and says your tractor is blowing over, that tractor is an eyesore, that type of thing, or if I can see it from the road. If I don't enter somebody's property unless I have probable cause that there is a violation, if I can see it from the road, so can everybody else. That is when I will start an investigation. And that's when I will just post the property that I can see from this roadway that there is a violation, and then there is a courtesy notice that is sent out. It is sent by mail, and the property itself is posted. It explains exactly what the ordinance says and how I see that their property is in violation and what needs to be done about it. They have 10 days to contact me. This is just a courtesy notice to just give them information, because many people don't even know they have an ordinance here.
And that's page 64, pretty much sets out the stuff that
Yes, sir.
Michelle's been doing informally to date, because we have nothing in the ordinance that sets out anything. That's the point of most of the stuff on 64 and 65, is to codify her procedure so that it's something she can refer them to and say, well, it's in the ordinance, the 10-day deadline.
And if they contact me within that 10 days and say, I can't get this done in 10 days, I have in here, and it also stipulates it here as well, a 90-day action plan. There's no fees, there's no fines, there is nothing implemented at all at that point. As long as we, the community member, whoever that may be, comes into the office, we work out the action plan together. They tell me, what can they have done for the next 2 weeks? When I go out to do a follow-up, they tell me what they have planned for the next 2 weeks. We do this for 90 days, so that gives them a total of 100 days to fix the violation that's at hand.
Okay.
If they continue and they're making progress, but they're still not done at the end of that 90 days, they can actually go into another 90 days. It becomes a discretion of the office. We can keep going, and as long as they are, I've got 3 different ones that's on their third 90 day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as long as they are making improvements, just keep in contact with me. Let me know, you know, this happened, I wasn't able to do anything.
That lets you tell the neighbor that complained that, yes, they're working,
And
we're
what
making
I do is
progress.
I get back to touch with that neighbor and I say, this is what we have in place.
Yeah,
And I'll even show them the action plan. This is what we're looking for the next 2 weeks. We are working on that, and as long as they are willing to be working on that, I'm not citing them.
yeah,
Now, if they stop and they just say, I'm not doing this, leave me
yeah.
alone. Whatever the case is, or do not contact me within that 10 days, then I will enter a citation. And that citation is posted and mailed at the same fashion, and they have an additional 10 days to contact the courts and come talk to the judge. It's been a 50-50 thing with the judge. He's given them another 30 days to go finish it. He's, you know, whatever the case is, and it really depends. I've had very few cases go in front of the judge.
I have one more question.
Okay?
When you talk about the 10 days, is that working days?
Working days.
Okay.
It is stipulated in this.
It is stipulated that it's working days, because I missed that. And
Yeah,
I
10
know
days.
somebody can go on vacation for 2 weeks, and in the calendar days, they're in trouble.
Absolutely, no, it is,
And,
Ten
that's
business
deed
days.
on page 64.
Not
It's going
halfway.
to be C3, and you'll see down towards the end, it says, in the event that the owner or occupant does not respond to the citation within 10 business days.
Okay,
It's also
good.
above it in C2.
And I was just going to say, there should be another one up above that's stipulated for the
It just says 10 days.
courtesy notice.
Yeah, and I had missed the 10 business days, and that's, I appreciate it. In the past, we have had someone cite one of our businesses who had had something that was a little out of place for a matter of a week. And this person was something of the bully kind of zoning enforcement officer. And I recognize you are not that bully. What we have to guard against is
And that's
the
why
officer
this
that,
says, I think it protects our community as well as the integrity of the officer in place.
right, so that we don't have someone, there's personality profiles for a lot of different types of occupation. And there's always someone who's so happy to enforce rules because they're rules. And it becomes a,
And there should be no question in anybody's mind what these rules,
right.
what the extent of them are and what it means.
So I appreciate what you're doing and the spirit you're doing it with.
And actually, I'm noticing that it says, one more, it says 10 business days, I didn't get it. Sorry, never mind.
The next part down, it just says 10 days. Cannot be cured within 10-day deadline.
And within the 10-day deadline, but right above that, if the owner or occupant have 10 business days
To
to
correct,
remedy the
okay.
violations. So it's just saying the 10-day deadline.
Okay. I've have a question on number A. It says this provision does not grant right of entry without due process. And what due process would that be? Because then you say you're gonna go investigate. What is the?
Like I stated before, I have to be able to see that from the roadway. I have to be able to justify that there is a violation there. If I have to go combing around the property to find the violation, then I'm being the bully and I'm just trying to find something on this person. I don't want that responsibility.
So is the
So
complaint?
unless I have an actual proof given, like on the home that we just condemned. I had actual, written complaints from neighbors, ex-tenants, and when I went on the premises and I spoke to the tenant that was there and she invited me in, asked me to go ahead and take pictures and do something about this, that was my due process. I had already established that we had an issue there. And that has to be established. If I'm driving by and anybody calls me and says, this is going on at this property, in fact, I just had one in there demanding, the neighbors are demanding, condemn that home. This is going on there. From the outside of that home, it's beautiful, it's fine. There's maybe one or two things that I could send them a notice, remove the washer out of your yard. Other than that, I have no right to enter that house. I have no right, and that is where the due process comes from. You have to have that probable cause, and just because everybody in the neighborhood does not like him, does not give me the right to go and cite that.
Okay, so just having a complaint from a neighbor is
I
not.
have to be able to see it. I have to be able to establish that that is true.
I've got a question, Michelle. Were you going to add is it the Scrivener's section to the end of it?
Actually, it's back
I believe it
here.
is on the last page.
Yeah, that did get put in red.
42.
Yeah, section
It may
42.
not have gotten in red.
Okay.
I did this kind of a-
Okay, that's how I missed it.
So that needs to be placed.
And
on
the
there.
other thing also, number D on 66, actually, section 39 is different than what's currently in there. That's just been relocated. Is the difference, it's not different in the substance, it's just been relocated.
Yes, and I should have had that in red as well.
Please.
Not that anything's new or nothing, you just
No,
relocated it.
We did not change any wording at all in that. We just placed it in the enforcement part where it actually
Yeah.
ran all the way through and flowed instead of having it as a standalone.
Yeah. But it's the same thing, we basically just used there on Cabanee. It starts with the declaration by the council of a nuisance and goes from there. Then you service the resolution to the person or the owner, removal of it. And by the way, they did get out there and wrap that one up. It's down to bare dirt. So,
And how long did that take from start to finish?
As far as demolition itself,
Yeah, from the time you got the complaint.
from the time we got the complaint came in July, and they finished last week.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would move that we accept ordinance number 2017 dash.
Mayor,
Wait a minute.
public hearing.
oh yeah. Before we do that, is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak to this? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to say that I think the changes that kind of preserve some latitude for doing hobby restorations is a good thing. I know that when the 2003 zoning ordinance was adopted, that was a big issue, that there are a lot of people out here who restore vehicles from time to time. And so it's good that they're, have some latitude to do that. Thank you. And I also want to thank Michelle for working with people instead of working against them. That's what people expect of their government. And I think you did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Michelle.
let's see. We're back to the zoning ordinance. I'm sorry.
It's an adoption of an amendment to 2014-02.
Okay. And I'm just wondering whether I ought to be reading from our agenda page or
Right.
go over here to the zoning ordinance itself. So,
I think the agenda page would probably work in this one.
all right. So I move that we accept the zoning ordinance or approve the zoning ordinance legislative procedure, a public hearing on the adoption of an amendment to zoning ordinance 2014-02, providing for code enforcement, regulations, requirements, and procedures.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made, and seconded to approve legislative procedure, adoption of an amendment to the zoning ordinance 2014-02, providing for code enforcement regulations, requirements, and procedures. Do this one on a roll call vote as well. Start on that end. Counselor Simmons?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Thank you, Counsel. Next item on the agenda is announcements and/or calendar review. Our next regular council meeting will be November 1st, Wednesday at 6:30 PM. Future agenda items. At that one, we're going to have, is this the first zoning designations coming forward?
Yes, it is.
For some of the infill, it's not all of them.
No.
It's just a portion of them, okay. Yeah, northeast of 344. Also, we're going to have, then that will also involve the amendment to the zone map for the stuff that comes in. And a master plan amendment, an amendment to the zoning ordinance. That's a legislative procedure. There's some proposed changes for the master plan portion of this ordinance here. So that'll be all coming forward on the next meeting on the 1st. Counselor Simmons, next item is yours.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Wait.
On future agenda items, also on the 1st, we're going to have I think we're going to have the county treasurer here to speak about the outreach program.
Our buddy Patrick.
He had requested to attend the meeting again, so we told him we would place him on the agenda, so hopefully he'll show.
And that's just basically, he's going to tell us he'll be down there at the senior citizens about 3 times to take in payments on this year's tax stuff.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and do I understand we're going to be having another presentation from HDR for the technical memo coming
Will
forth
that
at
be
some
ready by the
point?
1st?
I don't know. They just finished their site visit, so it may be the meeting after that.
Okay.
And the truth is, it may be longer than that. It takes, NMED always says it may take them up to 30 days to review something.
Okay.
So it could be as long as a month and a half out.
And they're going to review it before HDR comes and presents it to us?
Yes, they have to accept it first.
Okay.
The state does.
Yeah, the state, so they might have comments or
Before Ed brings it.
some issue that they want them to resolve before they approve it and say, yes, Edgewood, you can adopt this.
Okay. So now are we ready for adjournment?
Yes, sir.
I did move that we adjourn, sir.
We got a second?
Second.
Motion been made, second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned.